Okay, today's video is all about rational number conversions. Now remember, rational numbers are fractions and decimals. And we're going to be talking today about how to change a fraction to a decimal and then back again. This is something you've done before, so it should be a review. But let's go ahead and give it a whirl. We've got several different materials that you're going to need today. Your spiral notebook, any colored crayon or colored pencil will be fine, and you really only need about one. And then a calculator, basic one will work, and the graph paper that I gave you in class, or maybe some that you have at home. These are the key vocabulary words you're going to need to know. Denominator, remember that's the bottom of a fraction. Numerator is the top of the fraction. And terminate means to stop. Do you know the movie Terminator? Terminator was a man who was trying to stop something from happening. Terminate means to stop. All right, let's start with some modeling. Now, on your graph paper, or hopefully you have some at home, or the little half sheet of graph paper that I gave you, go ahead and draw a hundreds board. Do you remember what that looks like? It's 10 boxes across by 10 boxes down. So that makes 100 small little boxes. And grab your colored pencil or crayon and go ahead and shade in as you see here. We're going to write the fraction and the decimal that goes along with that picture. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Now, of course, there are 100 boxes in this hundreds board. That's where it gets its name. So the 100 is your denominator. The numerator is how many that's colored. Okay? Well, if you count it up, there's 4, 4, 4, and 4. 4 groups of 4 would give you 16. So let's put a 16 as our numerator. Now, of course, we can reduce that, can't we? Let's divide by 2. And we can divide by 2 again. Or, of course, you could divide by 4 right from the start. There's your reduced fraction. Do you see how easy that is? Now, we can also write the decimal that goes with that. To me, the easiest way to do that is to use a fraction that has a 100 at the bottom. There's 100 boxes, so we need the hundredths place. Hopefully you remember your place value terms. Tenths, hundredths. The 6 from the 16 has to go in the hundredths place. I usually start on the right and then fill in all my other numbers. That way there, if there are any left over, I put a 0 in its place. All right, go ahead and draw this one. And then write the fraction and the decimal that goes with it. Go ahead and pause the video and see if you can do it on your own. All right, let's see how you did. You should have 100 as your denominator. And then how many boxes are colored in? 20. So we're going to put that as our numerator. Now, whenever you can, try to reduce your fractions. Remember, whatever you do to the bottom, you also do to the top. If I divide by 10, I get 2 tenths. If I divide by 2, I get 1/5. Or, of course, you could divide by 20 right from the start. There's lots of different ways to reduce fractions. Just make sure whatever you do to the top, you do to the bottom. All right, we can also write our decimal. Tenths, hundredths. The 0 from the 20 needs to go in the hundredths place. And then you just fill in all the other numbers where they go. All right. Fractions to decimals. Go ahead and pause the video if you need to write down the steps. But I'm going to go ahead and start talking about the examples that are off to the side. And then you can have to try some on your own. All right, let's take a look at this example. Notice that these have positive and negative symbols. Now that you know about your integers, fractions and decimals can have positive and negatives too. All right, let's take a look here. We want to change this to a decimal. The easiest way to do this is to first try to change the denominator to be a place value number. Remember, tens, hundreds, thousands, they're all multiples of 10. So let's see. Can 5 go into 10? It sure can. We can times by 2. And remember, whatever you do to the bottom, you do to the top. Negative 2 times 2, negative 4. All right, so if we've got negative 4 tenths, just like we did with the models, we go to the tenths place. The denominator tells you the place value, the tenths place, and we're going to put the negative 4 in that spot. This whole decimal is negative. Let's do the same for this one. We could divide by 2 to get 10, but that would be kind of messy for the numerator, wouldn't it? It's not impossible, but it would be kind of messy. I think it would be easier if we go to 100. we can times by 5, top and bottom, we get 1/100th. So tenths, hundredths place, the 1 goes in the hundredths place. What do you think goes here? A 0. Do you see how it works? Put your number in the right place value and then fill in all the other numbers with zeros. This one's a little tricky because as you can see here, 75 doesn't go into 10 and it doesn't go into 100. So what can we do? Well, one way you can do this is you can reduce the fraction and then bring it back up again. I can reduce this down to 25. And I know 25 goes into 100. Do you see how that works? Let's work through this here together. We're going to divide by 3, top and bottom. Don't lose track of your negative. And now we're going to times by 4. Do you notice I'm changing my numerator? That's really important. Make sure you change the numerator right along with the denominator. All right, let's have you try some on your own. Let's do 3/4, negative 17 20ths, and 6 60ths. Go ahead and try each of those examples and then come on back and I'll go over them. All right, great. This one you should know on your own, but if not, let's work it through. Goes into 100, you do times 25, top and bottom, and we get tenths, hundredths. There you go. All right, this one we can change to 100, times by 5, times by 5, and you get negative 85, and we're doing tenths, hundredths place. We're going to put 85 in there, and don't forget the negative sign. All right, and then the last one. 60 doesn't go into 10 or 100. Well, it does go into 10, doesn't it? We can divide by 6. Let's try that. Oh, it works great for the numerator. Tenths place. Awesome. All right, what happens if you have a fraction that doesn't work quite so easily? One that doesn't cooperate because it doesn't go into 10, 100, or 1,000. The other method you could use is division, because a fraction really is a division problem. So here's where you want to grab your calculator. You got it? All right, all we need is the division button. You're going to type in negative 9 divided by 5, and look and see what decimal you get. Did you get negative 1.8? It's a terminating decimal. It's a decimal that stops. It has a definite end. All right, go ahead and try 1/3. 1 divided by 3. Do you see how it's repeating? That 3 is going on and on and on and on and on. So we put a little repeating bar on top. This is a repeating decimal. All right, take a look at this one. Now you know 1/2, I hope. Put the decimal in the integer in front here. It's a negative 0.5. Negative 0.5. It's a terminating decimal. All right, how about this one? 2 divided by 10. Just type it in the calculator for fun. 2 divided by 10. Did you get 2 tenths? That's the same as what we did on the last slide, isn't it? Terminating decimal. All right, try this one. Negative 2 divided by 3. Did you get 0.66 repeating? That 6 goes on and on and on. That's a repeating decimal. All right, and let's do this last one. 2 divided by 7. That gives you a repeating decimal also, a long one. What do you notice about all the repeating decimals? Repeating, repeating, repeating. Do you notice anything? Do you notice the denominators? Here's a big thing I want you to put in your notes, a big star. I want you to look carefully at the denominator. I'm going to shorten that here. Denominator. If the denominator can only be divisible by 2 and or 5, then it will be terminating. If it is not divisible by only 2 or 5, it will be a repeating decimal. Okay? Really important. 2 and or 5 equals terminating. See if you can use those clues to go ahead and answer each one of these questions. Try not to use your calculator. Use it if you need to double check. But go ahead and see if you can look at the denominator and decide if it's terminating or repeating just by using that one rule. And then come on back and I'll tell you the answers. Okay, great. Let's go over them. So here, this is divisible by 5, so it is terminating. This is not divisible by 2 or 5, repeating. Not by 2 or 5, repeating. It is divisible by 2. Can 5 go into it? Can any other numbers go into it? Sure, 3 can go into it, can it? So it is not terminating, it is repeating. How about this one? 2 doesn't go into it, 5 does, but so do some other numbers. 3 goes into 15 also. So this is not terminating. If it's only divisible by 2 and or 5. Only. So if 3 can go into it, that is going to be repeating. And this one is repeating too. Hopefully you've created your own. If you haven't, go ahead and do so, because we're going to review that in class. All right, the last step is changing a decimal to a fraction. This is really the easiest. All you're going to do is use your place value that you've learned many, many years ago. Take a look at this example. How do we say that decimal? 0 and 6/10. 6/10. The denominator is the place value word that you use. So it's going to be a 10 or a 100 or a 1,000 or a 10,000. The numerator is the number that you see here. How do we read this? 7 hundredths. Negative 7 hundredths. So it's negative 7 hundredths. All right, give these two a try. Use your place value to help you. And then come on back. All right, last two. Let's see. This is negative 0 and 25 hundredths. Negative 25 hundredths. Now, of course, we can reduce that, can't we? And if you did the reduced version, it would be negative 1/4. All right, take a look at this one. 0 and 19 thousandths. Tenths, hundredths, thousands. 19 thousandths. And you cannot reduce that because 19 is prime. All right, I will see you in class, and we'll go do some practice problems together. See you soon.